Welcome to Toffee TV. We are back. We're back together. We've got the shorts on, and it's all beautiful, I suppose. Even though we still haven't got a manager, although it does look like it will be this fella, Nuno. Looks like he could be coming in. It all just changed very, very quickly, didn't it, over the weekend? It all just went from 0 to 60 very, very quickly.
Did, but we'll come back to
that because obviously the Euro's going on, and we just wanted to talk about obviously the very distressing incident that happened over the weekend with Christian Eriksen. Now, I mean, this is a silly question, but you were watching the game live, weren't you?
Yeah.
I was watching the game live, and yeah, literally watched it, and when it happened, it was one of those things. What's just happened, but also at the same time having that little thought in the back of your head. Oh my! This people don't just fall over like that in football, and to see what unfolded, got to be one of the most distressing things I think I've ever witnessed. You know, obviously through a TV, but live. Just oh my God! I mean, I don't know what people in the ground must have felt, and I mean, and the players. Wow, unbelievable! Just an unbelievable series of events.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. I couldn't work out what had happened at first. Just why he was down. I was thinking, was anyone tackle him? And then obviously when you see the players screaming, you're like, oh my God! And then just ran over to feeling. My emotions just went into feeling sick, and my heart was racing.
Yeah,
just watching, I was just like, oh my God. And my missus come in and was like, is it half time? And I was like, as I said, like, Eriksen's collapsed and I can't talk, I'm sorry. And it was just unbelievable how Simon Kjaer reacted the way he did, unbelievable, in that split. And listen, you're obviously, something takes over you at the adrenaline in that situation, but ultimately it looks like he played his part in saving his life. But I've got to say as well, anyone who watches Toffee TV knows that I don't like referees, but Anthony Taylor, outstanding on Saturday. I thought he dealt with what was an unbelievable situation, stressful situation. I thought he was excellent in how he handled it, and obviously the medical team. But incredible.
I must admit, I rewound the TV just to see, like, not afterwards, but almost straight away, just to see what had happened. And like you said, Simon Kjaer, I think he got him in the recovery position, you know, made sure his airways were clear. But obviously, I mean, there's lots being said about what was shown and what should have been shown and all the rest of it. But what was shown was shown. You know, there'll be people out there will be blamed for that, and that will be sorted out later. But just by seeing the pictures, and seeing the fact that, I mean, physically seeing his body being shocked.
No, I know.
You know, I mean, obviously you didn't see the defibs go on there, but you've seen the jump. You've seen it.
But because they weren't round him at that point, were they?
And it was just, that was just incredible. Because I remember when it happened to Mark Vivian Fowey, and you know, it was never sort of shown in detail as that. And then I remember when it happened to Femish Mwamba. I think that was a 5 kickoff. Yeah, I think we played at 3 o'clock, and I think we were on the way back from the game and listened to it on like the radio. Obviously, you get a sense of it and sense of the panic, but you're not watching the shots. But I think what has to be said is that obviously because of those incidents, everything that went on Saturday helped the situation. They got him back within one shock. Yeah. It showed apparently the defibs take the chances from being like 6-7% with CPR to like 70-80% with defibs.
Do they?
Yeah. Because obviously CPR, all you're doing is you're pumping you're trying to keep them round. You know, everything's got to be perfect, hasn't it? But it's not a perfect system. But obviously CPR, you're giving them the jolt the heart to bring them back. Yeah. So it's obviously so important. There was a campaign in Liverpool a few years ago. Remember, it was just a young lad doing it. He ended up being a counsellor, about getting defib everywhere. you know, and I think...
Well, we had the situation with Oliver King, didn't we, in King David School, a young lad, not from football, but he dived into the swimming pool and he sadly died, and his family have got the Oliver King Foundation, which was to get defibs everywhere. It was carried on, you're right, by a young counsellor who's done it. We've had a football team not that long ago, a young kids team saying there needs to be one of these because one of their young lads sadly lost his life. I was saying that in our group it happened to us years ago when we were playing in a Formers League, and we got to the ground and the lad had died and we played straight away, and it was afterwards you were just thinking, my God, what's happened? Do you know what I mean? But when you see that on Saturday, it was just unbelievable, and thankfully he was...
Well, like you said there, obviously there was a lot of cool heads, referee, the Danish coach, the 2 sets of players, obviously Cassius Michael, you know, kept their cool heads because essentially, you know, in those situations people can panic and it can be those split seconds that causes the problem. And obviously seeing him straight away going down and how it affected the players, you knew something was wrong. So it was just, I mean, amazing. When... To
be honest though, just on like the pitches, even though it was too much in some respects, it was good that it was shown. Only let me
no, I know what you mean. No, I know what you mean.
Just because it showed how courageous people are and how important it is to react very quickly. Obviously, it is the stress.
No, there's always that thing. There's always that thing of like when anything bad happens and you see pictures and stuff, or people taking pictures and filming it. There's always that idea that shouldn't happen. But if you think about like history, you think of some of the amazing pictures that have been taken to show the history has to be documented. And I understand. You know, there was a lot of bad, like the video of like when you seen his wife or his girlfriend, you know, basically being told and stuff. It was like stuff like that didn't need to happen.
No.
But at the same time, you are right. You did get like a true sense of what was going on. So even though it was, and we all listen, people, you know, people. If people want information, if people didn't have information, you know, you only have to look at it afterwards. As soon as people seen that picture of him sitting up. You know, if that picture hadn't been taken, then
all the stories would have
gone. Then exactly. You mightn't have known. You mightn't have known for hours. But as soon as we got that picture, and even straight away, some people were like, "That's fake." But straight away, once you found out it was real.
Well, I seen the fella who took it, the photographer today, saying he's had a lot of hate for it as well. He said, but also he said the reason why I done it was just so that everyone in the Associated Press could have the picture. He said they didn't sell it to anyone, just sent it and went, he's sitting up and he's just so that the information could get passed around.
Even the picture of all of the players doing like the guard around them, if you'd put that picture out at the time, then that is ghoulish and morbid and not nice. But afterwards, it actually then becomes like a courageous picture.
It's an iconic
exactly.
Moment,
so there is different things, but it's great that obviously he's recovering. Listen, whatever happens next.
He said so. What's really interesting is though he said so far none of the tests have all shown up clear. So I seen a cardiologist yesterday explaining the difference between cardiac arrest and a heart attack, and it was like a heart attack to do with your plumbing. So it's all
blocked
like
arteries.
Blocked arteries and that. And there's normally signs leading up to it, so that's why if you get any signs, you go and see your doctor. But cardiac arrest is to do with the electrolytes that are going around your body.
So hot, wasn't he?
So if it hasn't damaged his heart, then maybe he might be able to play again. But it's too early for all that.
But it does come into, you know, different topic for a different day. But it does come into, you know, do footballers, are they playing far too much football now? Are they playing too much football? But one point that, funny enough, when it happened, my next door neighbours are both ambulance drivers, and the first thing one of them said to me, he said, he couldn't have been in a better place for it to happen. If it had happened anywhere else, it would have been all over. He said, but he was in the best place in the world. So, and I've heard that mentioned before. But I mean, we'll see what happens. Fantastic news that he's all right. I'll be honest, there's news filtered out, obviously coming out now that UEFA didn't really give them much choice in terms of when the game was played, which is
3-0 defeat, one of them.
You know, Kasper Schmeichel's come out today. His dad came out yesterday, but Kasper Schmeichel's come out today and basically said, we didn't have any choice. And, you know, the coach has said it himself last night, basically said, we shouldn't have played it.
I thought the Finnish players were fantastic, clapping them back on when he come up and all. And you could tell, you could tell Kjær had to get substituted because he said know where I was. Because the adrenaline obviously took over, and then you come down and he said I didn't know where I was, and which is dangerous, isn't it? But you could tell watching it, they were running at half pace. Are you going to sprint around after seeing that? Are you not?
Schmeichel for the goal.
Yeah,
wasn't concentrating.
Mind
somewhere else. Of course it is. You can't do anything if something's on your mind.
Not half it, but a lot of fans had left as well. Because when you actually watched the game, it was chocker, and then at the end there was still lots stayed. But
that's the thing that comes out of it is that leaves the really. They got it wrong. UEFA got it completely wrong. But there's not to be surprised after what happened with Dortmund. There's nothing to be surprised. It's just
play a game.
Again, no, it's a tournament, and it has to be. Why? Just say it's a 1-1 draw. Say it's a 0-0 draw. Sorry, and just say that's the result because of ridiculous circumstances. Ridiculous circumstances means it's a draw, and we move on. It doesn't compromise the tournament. No one would have cared.
Not in them circumstances.
No. But we send Christian Eriksen obviously our best.
All the best.
And there you go. Let's move on. Looks, it does seem like at the moment it looks like it's only going to be one man from the Everton job. Massive rumours from the weekend coming out, and
my only thing on it is there was obviously Friday night, wasn't it? We done the live on Friday, and as we've done all week, the odds were up and down, but he was the favourite. And to be fair, I think we done a live every day last week, didn't we, Ned? And 4 out of 5 days he was the favourite. So fair enough and all that. I mean, Eddie Howe was the favourite one day and his odds were suspended. But Friday night, clearly, there was stuff come out and it said that he... But the thing about it is, the only thing I would say, right, what I would take from it, which puts a little bit of a question mark over it for me, a lot of it seems to be coming from his side.
Yeah.
Right, and I've seen this with the Crystal Palace thing. A lot of it was coming from the other side, so I still feel like he's the favourite, but
it's not done.
Is it as far down the line as we think? I don't know.
What was Marcel Brands doing in London?
Wanted to go and see Wayne Rooney.
Maybe.
Obviously he's gone down. Maybe he's gone down to see Farhad Moshiri, or Bill Kennedy, whatever it is. But yeah, I think he looks like he's the favourite for it. I think if you were putting your money anywhere, it'd probably be on him at the moment. But the Crystal Palace were ready to announce him as the manager, and it fell through. So I haven't seen anyone kind of from our side saying that it's ready to be announced. You know.
Well, you just said if you were going to put your money on it, so let's see the odds.
Go ahead.
So there you go. He's 1 to 20. So you aren't winning much money there.
No.
Put that on.
Galtier 16.
Galtier 16 to 1, which obviously second favourite, but miles out. Graham Potter 18 to 1. Eddie Howe 20 to 1, and Rafa Benitez no 20 to 1 as well. It's not the greatest list in the world, is it? Jesus.
I mean, there's others, but the odds are obviously further away. I mean, bookies have still got David Moyes on some of theirs, even though he signed a 3-year deal over the weekend.
If people are willing to pay.
Yeah, people are willing to put bets on it. Yeah, so it's a very, very, it's an interesting one for me, just because, like I say, he's been available since Carlo Ancelotti left. I think if it was as easy to do the deal as what people are making out, I think it would have been. I think Everton could have done it within the first 48 hours of that.
Well, maybe that's a good sign, though, from the club that they have took the time on it. Because let's be honest, he does tick a lot of boxes in terms of he's free to come in. He has been a Premier League manager. I'm struggling for it, to be honest.
He took Wolves into Europe.
No, listen. I'll be honest. The first season we played Wolves in the Premier League, I was massively impressed by Wolves. I was impressed by the way they played at the back. I was impressed by how they broke. I was impressed about the type of players they had for them. The second season in the Premier League, obviously, they played in Europe and they just looked worn out. And by the end of it, and that carried into this season. Then they lost Jota, and then they lost Jimenez, and then they had no focal point, and it's difficult to play that style if you've got to put the ball in the back of the net, and they didn't, and it become a little bit too. It went from being solid, aggressive counter-attack football to boring, heartless, tippy-tappy rubbish with very average players, which is what he's going to get at Everton. So it's hard to make a judgment, but certainly his first 2 seasons. Listen, when he brought them up, they were a Premier League team. They were oven ready, as they say, which isn't always guaranteed, of course. And the little bit like Leeds have been this season. They were ready to go. They had that momentum. He's going to have a different thing at Everton. He's going to have to build a team while being in the Premier League, and that's actually harder, I think, than what he did in the Championship. So, if it is him, obviously, with his mate, they've got the ability to bring in certain players, which I don't know whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, because we're supposed to have a director of football for that. Basically leaves his job pointless, if you ask me, apart from doing the academy. Well, if we're using, what I mean by that, Paz, is if we're using outside sources to do the job of the director of football.
No, wait.
I
fully understand.
That's where my disappointments come in this. I've mentioned this, I think, Friday. Yeah, it's not the appointments of him. I'm a little bit.
The stuff that goes with
it. It's what goes with it. You're right. It's. We know it was Maters. We know that he brings players in, and that just leaves Brands twiddling his thumb.
Unless they bring the players in
independently
that Brands wants as well. Maybe. I mean, if he brings Rafael Lau, who we've been linked with over the weekend, then we'll have him all day long. Great age, good athlete, can play through the middle or wide. So that wouldn't be a bad thing. Yeah. Obviously, Everton have got a couple in the pipeline at the moment that are very much Marcel Brands' thinking.
One of them, I would not mind after watching them last night.
Yeah, look good. Look very good. But, yeah, I mean, you're right. Went in at Wolves. He's been at Rio Ave. He's been at Valencia. He's been at Porto. Before Wolves, he come in at Wolves and won the Championship with them and got them up and had 2 very solid seasons. 7 twice on the run. And this season, I suppose if you're looking at it, you can say to lose 40 goals out your team is huge, absolutely huge. And obviously in a season when it's been COVID affected and there's no fans and everything else, you can point to reasons why Wolves haven't been the way they have. If they'd have kept Jota, Doherty and Jimenez, they might have even gone higher than teams like West Ham who were able to get there. So
why do you think he actually left Wolves? Do you think it might have been that idea that it had run its course because they were starting to sell players?
You've heard all kinds of stories, haven't you, that the Chinese owners or Chinese investment, they pull the money out and things were changing behind the scenes and he wasn't happy with it, maybe to do with that. And maybe, because he only signed a 3-year deal not that long ago to stay, a 3-year extension, I think. So yeah, maybe it was that. Maybe Wolves have thought, if he's not happy.
It's hard though, isn't it? Because you've got to have that energy to rebuild. And if you haven't got it, it just makes it pointless. It's like you've got to, because it felt like to me like Wolves were having to start again, and it wasn't from that level. Sometimes you have, listen, we've seen it with Moyes when he was here. We've seen it with, obviously the best one was Ferguson at Man United. You get to that point where you start rebuilding a couple of years before. Where to me it felt like with him it completely ran its course and he was having to go again. And I think that can be very, very difficult, especially when it's a club like Wolves where they're not really a Premier League team as such. Every single year there's always that idea that you still think to yourself, well, if they had a dodgy season, they could go down. There's not, you know what I mean? They haven't quite got the momentum maybe to keep them going.
I think the difficult thing for them is, and you are right there, it's having that energy to go again. You've got a cycle. If you haven't won anything, and I'm not saying Wolves should have won something, of course, but if they got to an FA Cup semi-final and they were 2-0 up against Watford and got beaten. They got to a Europa League quarter-final, I think it was, and were beaten late on. So it is difficult to go again if you haven't got loads amounts of money coming in or whatever. Or if you're a manager and things have happened one way and then goalposts start to move and you don't believe in the process going forward, it is difficult to get. And maybe Wolves had had enough of him as well. Maybe it's just that situation where you just go, yeah, this is probably right now for us to move to a different way of doing things.
Another Portuguese manager.
Yeah, Bruno Lage, yeah, Lage. Yeah,
I must admit, I did read an article in The Athletic 18 months ago now. No, it might have just been about a year ago. And it was about how he dealt with European football and how...
I remember you coming in and telling me. It was amazing.
It was amazing. It was genuinely amazing. I was really, really impressed by it. He, you know, the processes that he went with after they played on a Thursday night to get them back for a Sunday, and how the recovery started straight away, and they'd be on the plane wearing the airbags on the legs and all these things to get them prepped for the Sunday, and how it worked as well, because the results seemed to be really good. And I was really impressed by the detail he went into. So I know a lot of people they're not massively impressed. And I understand that anyway, because when it was Carlo Ancelotti, man's left to go to Real Madrid, and you look at the list, you know, the list we had up there then, look at anyone on that list. There's, you know, we've spoken quite a bit in the last week on, you know, on our groups and stuff, and you know, people like Graham Potter were starting to get favoured, because you were thinking, well, if we're going to start again, let's start from a base where you give a guy the ability to just go and do what he wants and give him time to build the club up. And I think that shows you not how far we've fallen, because I don't think that's the right expression, but just how, when you look at the list, you were like, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to go, we'll get Benitez in, and he'll probably do something, he's like an Ancelotti light, and the football won't be very good, but he'll keep us in a certain place? Or do you want to go and get a Potter who will start building the club in a way he wants to? I suppose this fella's a little bit in the middle, where some of the things at the club, we were speaking, I think me and Ned a couple of weeks ago when the news was broken, he was one of the first names, and one of the first things we said was, well, if he plays with three centre backs, we've already got enough of them, and we've got Dean to play left wing back, and we knew we needed a right wing back, right back or a right wing back anyway. So, and the one seem to be looking at seems to fit the bill after watching them last night. So the tools are already there, and you know, it's obviously what happens.
The least disruption.
Yeah, but
maybe it's one of them with them, isn't it? I think if it was the end of this second season in the Premier League, I think a lot of people would have been happier if we were, you know, when they just finished 7th again and they'd had a good run in Europe, whatever. This season has been, I've watched them, I've not been impressed with them at all this season. And you do worry and look at it and go, well, is he going to, you know, if they're playing like that, he comes to us, are we just going to play what we... I think Evertonians' problems, or certainly what I perceive it to be, or certainly in fact, let's clarify, my problem, right, is that I'm just bored with us. I'm bored with the way we play. We seem to move the deck chairs around, as you like to say, and it always seems to be the same thing, no matter what manager we've got. We've had Allardyce, it was boring. Ancelotti, yeah, he was Carlo Ancelotti, and he got a lot of grace because we were going, it's Carlo Ancelotti though, and it will get better. It was terrible football, let's be honest. It was boring to watch. Allardyce was boring. Silva started all right, lost his way, finished well, and then come back second season, and it was rubbish to watch. Allardyce, Koeman ended up awful to watch. Martinez started brilliantly and ended up terrible. You know, and then all of a sudden you're back to David Moyes and going, oh, you know what? Some of his football was great, even though people rewrite it so it was terrible. And it's a thing, I think, of if you look back over the last 20 years, Moyes 06 to 09, football was probably really good, and Roberto Martinez's season. And yet even that was probably Christmas till May. The first part was a little bit hit and miss. Koeman's second half of his first season was really good. We won 9 out of 10 home games and we were flowing. Other than that, it's been all stop-start. And I think Evertonians just want, I do, just want fast attacking football.
I think, and again, this is me, it's an identity, isn't it? You want an identity, and you build that round the manager. And I think when Carlo Ancelotti came in, that's where everyone was excited. It was the idea you could build around this great manager, and it happened basically straight away. And from Boxing Day till COVID, you felt like that, you know. We'd only really had one poor performance. It was Chelsea away. but everything else just was great.
You felt like he was in control.
Well, you felt like, you know, we had songs about him. It felt like he was a man you could get behind, a man who could create something. That sort of disappeared when COVID hit, and you know, football wasn't great, but it was functional. It did what it was supposed to do, I imagine. Certainly from where he was anyway, with everything going on. I don't think anyone looks at this fella and thinks he's going to be the face of Everton. Because when you watch him in interviews and stuff, he's very quiet. He reminds me far too much of Silva in terms of when you see him in interviews. And I don't like that, because it's not against him. That's his personality. I think it's just that we look at the best managers out there and we watch the way they conduct themselves and how it's all, you know, as much as I've said this a million times, right? But as much as people, and I know you sort of don't like this, but as much as people don't like Klopp, I think we'd love a Klopp like that. If it was Duncan Ferguson, we'd love it. When we seen Duncan Ferguson running down the line, we loved it against Chelsea. We absolutely loved it. Hugging the ball boys and going mental. That's what we want. That's how we want our manager, we want our players to feel the way we do. That's going to get harder and harder and harder as football goes on, because we know what football's like now. People detach themselves. There's probably a little bit more professionalism. That's where the Duncan Ferguson thing is like so appealing, I think, to a lot of people, is that he's an Evertonian, he gets the club, he would be like that. If it went right, it would be absolutely amazing. Yeah. But obviously there's the big fact that he's got absolutely zero experience as a manager of a football club, so that makes it really hard for people to accept. I think straight away what people see with this fella is beige. They see beige. They don't see a manager who embodies what we are absolutely crying out for, which is a bit of hunger and a bit of desire. But the real thing is, it doesn't really exist anymore in football. You look, I've just named one manager, Klopp, who just happens to be their manager. Pep shows it now and again, but everyone else is as beige as they come, Hardy. You know, you look at
Conte's one, but he doesn't stay in.
He goes too far, though. But he goes too far if everything's not right. He fights it. And there's very, very few managers out there who have got what we actually want as our manager. We want our players to have it, die for the badge and all that. And we want it from our manager. And the simple fact is, there aren't too many out there that mix the passion and the love, desire, with actually the ability to manage. It's very, very difficult, because a lot of them are like, why would I use that energy on doing that when I need, you've just mentioned it yourself, 3-year shelf life of managers now because the burnout. It's because it's a 24/7 job, they're working around the clock, and they haven't got the energy to be, you know, they go into interviews and they're just like, Jesus, an interview, you know, I can't be bothered with this. Or, you know, or they're spiky because they're probably tired and all the rest of it.
I seen an interview with, I've watched some stuff on him to try and get a feel for him over there, just to be honest, to try to convince myself that I can fully, it will be all right. I watched the coach's voice and stuff for him, tactically really good at this, explaining stuff. I've done some reading on him, very good tactically. But I've watched some of his and he does one with tubes. It's only 4 minutes, but he even says in the thing, he's like, tubes is like, oh, like the personality, it's like one word answer, and he goes like, yeah, I don't really want to be here, I'd rather be out, which is fine.
No,
that's honest, but it's like, you can't give that, you know, it's a 3.5 minute interview. You've got to come and...
But that's what I'm saying.
Because Marco, I know it was one of the... See, with Silva, it didn't really annoy me that much until you started pointing it out, and then I was thinking, has he got a point? It was the thing... No, just let me finish. You're right. When you come into a press conference and you sit there and you're closed and you're a bit spiky if you don't like what they're saying, it makes us feel like...
Exactly, because I've said this, like, said this for a while. Like, it's something I think I've noticed more and more as we've been doing our stuff. It's some when you do an interview with somebody, you're talking to the fans. That's who you're talking to. They're the conduit for talking directly to the fans. And you mightn't always like the question. And if you don't like the question, change it up. Change it so that you're doing, I don't know, a press conference once a week with the club, and you get the interview that you like, and it's all done. But because that's what fans want. Fans want to hear something coming out of the club that they can get behind. And this is something we said about Silva. If maybe if he'd done certain interviews, people might have got him a little bit better. Certainly when we got Duncan Ferguson in here, I think when that interview went out, people sort of going, oh, this fella does know what he's talking about. And I do feel like as a fan base, we're just crying out for someone we can get behind. And because Carlo had that from day one, and I always had it, and I think that's what broke loads of people's hearts, was that it was like 1 week he was saying, oh, it's great that Real Madrid are after me, but I love Crosby. And then 2 weeks later going, it's Real Madrid, isn't it, lads? Sorry, lads, see you now.
No,
all the best.
He had 4 games in front of a capacity crowd, Ancelotti, as manager, that was it. Yeah. Which is mad, isn't it? It's almost like, it just feels like a Netflix programme. If James never plays in front of the crowd, it'll feel like we just watched a series on Netflix for a year.
I once played for Everton and didn't play in front of a crowd.
That's it though, isn't it? Yeah, and whose line is it anyway? Yeah.
Would
I played for Everton for a season and I never played in front of a crowd. True or false?
Yeah, mad. But we'll see what happens. I think, listen, he does tick a lot of boxes. I would just... the thing about it is, like, he will get time. People will back him, because Everton fans always will back. But I'd like him to just come in and go, you know what? Biggest club I've ever been at this, and we're going to do everything we can. And I know you can't change a person's personality. I understand that. You can't. I suppose you've just got to elevate all the other things. If you're not great at talking in front of people or taking questions in press conferences, then I suppose you've got to elevate some of your other things that you are comfortable with.
Definitely, yeah. If he's
I can understand them not wanting to talk to tubes, by the way.
No, I can't.
Yeah.
Fair play to him, fair play.
I can get that. No,
I just mean like, I think it's like you want. We've said it before we got Ancelotti, didn't we? Because of Marco. Sometimes the way we are and with some of these. Tom Newton says, not sure what the process was in selecting Nuno. Thought Brands would be looking at the likes of Favre. Are you surprised the likes of Lucien Favre hasn't been pushed to the fore more? Because he's available, he's 60, I know it's his age, but very experienced manager. Somewhat like, if people are talking about a safe pair of hands to get us to Bramley more. And don't forget, he also works with, he shapes a team and can work with what he's got. It just seems like they've been pushed to the, it seems like, we might be wrong.
I don't know, I'll be honest, he's someone who got a good reputation, but I suppose it's about making sure you tick all the boxes for Everton, and I don't.
It is difficult.
I don't know. Like, this fella's been top of the list, hasn't he? Let's be honest, because
it seems like,
because he's free and he's got Premier League experience. The thing about it is I've looked at the list, and Gaultier is very appealing because he's obviously just won the league.
And to beat PSG is decent, like.
But then again, does he become like is he like a Paul Le Guen? He was the flavour of the month when he went to Rangers, wasn't he? And he felt, just didn't have a clue, couldn't talk to people, language was a problem, and it just didn't work. And you do wonder if there's a bit of that. But no one on the list really excites me, so I've not really worried too much. I was off last week, and I honestly just barely give it a thought.
You've been quite calm.
Because we look at the list and you just think, how can you get excited
about
I know. Any of those people?
No,
like, if they'd been like a front runner, like if Conte had been in the mix, you'd be like, oh, tell you what.
I think the fact that so many people throw so many names out there, and we're all, me and Ned were saying last week, it's a lot of the names of the game of tennis as well. Someone will go, dunk, big dunk, give it, and then someone on the other side of the net go, never manage, don't be ridiculous. Then you go, Graham Potter, other people on the back of the... Yes, and I said that he's never won more than, he hasn't won 10 games in the Premier League season yet, and Everton won 17 last season in one, So for every name you can throw up, I like Gaultier, looks good because he's won the league, he's experienced, he does forward rolls, bangs on the tables.
Forward rolls.
When he carries off it, and he looks like he could stand outside the ground at Goodison and go, all right lads, how are you? I've not seen you for a while.
Selling the, sell them on Scars of Grey on the island.
Hat, scarf or a banner.
Ascot or a baguette.
Works. Wormy Spoon says, Galtier does roly-polies. Where are we? Hot Juice says, no point in blaming the performance of previous managers. If we have key players absent from a proper squad, hard work isn't enough. Fair enough. Michael Locke says, all the people writing them off will already think, or already writing them off rather, I think he'll shock a few. That'd be good, wouldn't it? If he did come, if it was him, and he does come in and he gets a pattern of play, then great. I'd rather have that. I'd rather be underwhelmed at the start and grow into it and go, rather than go, oh, this fella's going to sort us, and it's deflating.
The thing about it is, though, I've seen this quite a lot, certainly on Twitter, where people are like, can't believe people are writing them off already. But you are allowed to have an opinion about somebody before they come in. You are allowed to feel a certain way about a manager. Because we've had 5 managers in 5 years, or whatever it is. You're allowed to feel burnt out about the process.
Yeah, of course.
And when you get a manager that finished below you in the Premier League, and that's going to be your next manager, you are allowed to feel disappointed about the situation. So,
definitely.
You can, I know people are saying writing him off, but I don't think that's quite right. I think if he does get the job, people will go, right, well, let's get behind him now. Yeah. But in this little bit, you are allowed to give your opinion. If you don't feel...
And you're allowed not to be excited if he doesn't.
Exactly. Listen, if he's the manager, I've got zero excitement about him. There's no... Listen,
but you know what, mate? Sometimes they're the best managers, aren't they? Sometimes they're the ones that surprise you.
I've got zero excitement about him. I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to watch the games and I'm going to say, well, impress me then. And that probably is the best way, rather than going, right, day one, let's get a T-shirt sorted for this fella.
I mean, we will.
No, of course we will. But I've already got ideas.
But you're not going to, there's no fanfare with
no, you just go, come in. And I think that was, to be honest, I was the same with, that was exactly how I felt about Marco Silva. Exactly. I was like, come and impress me then, you know, and now and again he did. Put it this, he's like the Iwobi of managers. Right, coming into the club, you know what I mean? No, I'm not talking about what we now. I'm just talking about when he first come in. I was like, well,
you've shown something.
You're okay.
You're all right.
Yeah, you've done bits.
I mean, that is a shout. He's the Iwobi of managers. I mean, maybe we could get that on a T-shirt. He is the Iwobi of managers. I'll race through a few. We'll do about another 10 minutes. And we are doing a watch-along for Scotland game on the Footy Show channel if you want to come over there and join us.
Why not?
Have a chat, because I'll be able to read the comments more.
Yes, sir, come on, Boogie.
Easy, won't I? Because I won't be Everton, so I won't have to focus fully. So get involved in that as well. Barry JB says Farhad's probably still hunting Conte on the quiet.
Maybe.
You know what, though? That wouldn't surprise me if he just went, what do you want? And then just give him whatever.
Farhad strikes me a bit like Trump. You know, Trump would come out if he's seen something on the telly, like, and go comment on it. Maybe if you could get... Maybe he bought... Remember Cenk Tosin? He was like, oh, you're watching them against Monaco. He was boss. So maybe we need to get like...
That's when he come out and said, we've got the Fab Four.
So, someone needs to slip into his house and slip a DVD onto his
or
whatever. And be like, pretend it's like a TV show. Oh, what are you watching?
Potable. Just like superimpose like Graham Potter's face over, like Billy Bean, pretend it's him, like doing it all. Torrance says Galtier was the man, should have gone all out for him. Liam Floyd says Conte is another Ancelotti, all about the money. Carson says Chris Wilder has done 10 times more than what Marco Silva did when he got the job. I mean, Chris Wilder's one that he keeps popping up every now and again. I was dead impressed with Wilder, his honesty and all that, but do you honestly think he could come in and be the Everton manager in this moment?
Not in this moment.
I'm not saying he couldn't, because he's obviously a good coach, and I think he's quite... I love the honesty of him, and I really do like Chris Wilder, but...
Not in this moment, no. I like Chris Wilder, but I just don't think it could work.
No, okay.
Which is a problem. Which is a problem for football fans, that we don't give people like him a chance.
Paul, hit the like button as well. 1,000 of you watching. Cheers. Paul Gold says, it makes a really good point here though. Says, hang on boys, we had Mr. Martinez, Mr. Upbeat. We did. That was the other way, wasn't it, Paul? That was like the other way, wasn't it?
By the way, don't get me wrong. Listen, it's not about how they communicate. It's what they communicate. Right? If a manager walks into a press conference, folded arms and all that, I'm not overly happy with that. But if he sits down and talks to the press or talks to the fans on an Everton channel, or whatever, then you've done your job. I'm not asked if you... Don't get me wrong. Listen, if you want to come in and be spiky and take on the world, you can be like that. The problem is, when Silva was the manager, he'd come in and he'd ask him a question and he'd mutter a couple of words that you couldn't understand what he'd say, and then it would be the next question. That, to me, is a nonsense. You're the manager of Everton Football Club. You set the tone. If you want to set it for the Saturday that we're going to come out and we're going to be moody, then set it like that and the fans will follow. Emery had the same problem, I think, at Arsenal, slightly different. He just couldn't get across what he wanted to say. If he walks into a press conference, if he gets the job and walks in and he's a bit like down, I'm not really asked. As long as he gets over what he wants to say. That was my problem with Silva. It was just this. It was just this.
I've seen he's a little bit more
just quieter,
but it's still
just quiet.
You've got a thing here, isn't it? Mazra Mirage says, "Gents, is this formally announced yet?" No, mate, it isn't. We're just saying we're just going off what's happened over the weekend. And like I said right at the very start, if you've only just joined us now, is that I'm not even convinced it's as far along as what people are saying at the moment. But a lot of the press are saying it's Nuno, so we just have to wait and see. The Swellhead Spurs says, Spurs fan here, we went from Conte to Fonseca, but you just got to get behind him. See, Paulo Fonseca's an interesting one, because we interviewed him before Marco Silva got the job. Weren't impressed with his interview, so we went back to...
He wore the mask.
He probably wore the Zorro mask. However, this time, I had a look at him, and I think he'll do all right at Spurs.
Well, he did it.
I think the problem...
To be fair, sorry,
come on.
He did get Roma, Europa...
Conference League.
And Spurs are going into Europa Conference League, so...
Mourinho versus Fonseca, mate.
Match made in heaven, isn't it?
Just on both
he did
sides.
He did great at Shakhtar, didn't he?
Brilliant at Shakhtar. Roma were doing really well till he got a few injuries in February and then the wheels fell off. One thing I did see about Fonseca was a couple of the journalists saying that the feeling around him is, and it's why other teams haven't taken him, is he doesn't deal very well with pressure when things go against. I know. And Spurs will have that through Levy, and Everton would have had it through the fans. So we'll see. But if he gets it right, I think Spurs will play some lovely football next season, because he is a good manager. There's no messing around. Semi-Charmed Life 311 says, "Wow, Ped, that's a shot. The Iwobi of managers." Quality. Wormy says, "Oh, thanks. I feel better now, Ped. The Iwobi of managers." Why didn't someone just say that at the start? Sol says the Tony Hibbert of managers, or is that Potter? I mean, what are you... Just last 5 minutes now before we move over to the footy show time. What are your thoughts on Graham Potter? Because the XG people will tell you. Right. And I look at the boat. The XG people will tell you Brighton are they're basically a top 4 team.
They are, yeah,
without a striker.
And I get that. I do get... No, that's facts.
They are the facts.
The XG kids will tell you they are top 4, top 5 when it comes to attacking football. They just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net.
And even defensive, they're in the top 7. But anyway... But
they just lack... They're lacking in their... It's the difference between the Premier League, I think, and other countries. It's like... He would like... He's like... the Atalanta style kind of thing. He'd have, in another country, I think he'd have a team flying.
Or a big,
no, he'd have Brighton. He'd have like the whatever version flying. But in the Premier League, it doesn't work like that, because there's too many big hitters. There's too many people who can cover all that stuff with money. Whereas we can't. Yeah. We seem to get both wrong. I did sort of come round to the idea that if he got the job, that
it wouldn't be a bad thing.
It would have, it could have been one of those things where but I just don't know if he would have built the club. And I've heard something about him saying he's another one who doesn't really deal with the pressure of the fans really well. Well, oh my God.
He said he takes the stick from the Brighton fans to heart.
Well,
he would be.
I think there'd be a corner of a dressing room just for him to rock in. Honestly,
if he was the
Everton manager, and that would be a real worry, because it is that thing of, it's good where you're at a club where there's no pressure on you and you're doing well, everyone applauds you, finishing 16th or 15th or everything, and you get, you give everyone a good game and everyone pats you on the head and being great. But the problem with Everton is that we just want, and it's becoming that thing now where it is becoming, we are starting to morph into Newcastle from maybe 10 years ago, where our expectations are never going to be met. Really, unless something dramatically changes. And something dramatically changing could be someone like Graham Potter coming to the football club. But I don't know. It's not going to be Graham Potter. Let's be honest. I
can't see it.
I'm pretty sure it's going to be this fella. But we'll wait and see.
Okay. The last few, and then we're going to finish.
Right, so what we're going to do in 2 minutes is, as Baz looks for a couple of comments, come over to our Footy Show channel, right? Come over to it. Ned is about to put the link in the comments of this video right now. Right? The link to the channel. Go over to there. We're going to be doing a watch along, which is basically us just sitting off and watching footy. And it's Scotland, it'll be a laugh. So if you're doing nothing, you
and I'll answer we can discuss the comments as it's going on.
Do the manager stuff in that as well. Do the Everton manager stuff in that as well. It just gives us something to focus on, doesn't it? So, Greg, have you got any...
Sol says Pedder Day Potter, I can already tell. I don't know whether he would. Keith Sharp says I'd still go for Eddie Howe.
No, not a chance on earth would I go near Eddie Howe. Anywhere near. I wouldn't get Eddie Howe to tile my bathroom.
Mark D says, boys, did you see Kirkbride's article then? Nez, the top candidate, no decision made. Hopefully there's someone who hasn't been discussed. If Potter had a striker, they'd be Champions League, says Chris Rankin. If we had a decent midfield and right winger, we'd be champions. I think we'd have got in the Champions League, I think, if we'd have had a decent midfield or a decent right winger. But there you go. Listen, it's in now. The Footy Show channel is in there. Go and sub to it and come all over there, and we can carry this on over there while we're all watching Scotland as well. Yeah. So we're going to go right now. We'll see you over there. Give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to Toffee TV if you haven't, but we'll see you in a minute on the Footy Show channel.